Okay, so what we are going to do in the hands-on practice lab of chapter 3 that we learned in JavaScript. So let me show you the problems first. Okay, so if you open your the source file that you have downloaded from Folio, you will see the first practice like this. It doesn't do anything, but what we are going to make it to do is calculate the total amount and display the amount in the screen itself. Do you remember in the previous practice, it just gave that amount in the pop-up menu. Now we are going to display it in the viewport, in the main page itself. That is the first practice. So if you want to see how that works, like this. Okay. In the viewport itself, it is going to tell you the total cost. Okay. That is the first thing. And the second practice that we are going to do is 3.3. So that looks like this without any information. And what we are going to do in that, we are going to use JavaScript to fill in the information in the viewport, in the display page. Okay, that is the second practice. And the third practice, that is 3.4, like it should look like this. So if you submit, it doesn't happen, nothing happened here. But what we are going to do with our JavaScript technique, whatever we are entering, that should get displayed in the viewport like this. So literally what we are going to do today is adding the content in the viewport by using JavaScript, right? So that is what we are going to do. So let's get started. So in 3.1, open your 3.1 folder, the index.html file in Visual Studio Code. So as we did in our previous practice, we have all our content, HTML content and CSS, everything is given. We are just going to add the JavaScript code snippet in the HTML or before the body tag, before the closing of the body tag, that we are going to add our script tag. Okay, so we know the task. The task is we are going to calculate the total amount and display it in the viewport itself. So we are going to write the code for that. So let's get started. So after the article tag, to add our JavaScript code snippet. So we are going to, in chapter 2, you learned about function definition. Can you recall what is the syntax to create a function in JavaScript? You have to use the keyword function, and then you have to specify the function name. Here we are using the camel case, that is to separate two words. You can just do it without separation. C should not be in caps. In the camel case. Oh, yeah, yes. The name could be anything, but let's follow the name given in the instructions or the textbook. It could be anything, but we have to stick to that name. So that is the function name, function that we are going to do. What this function is going to do? This function is going to do this job of calculating all this. We are going to do assignment operator and add all those things, whatever is selected. And after adding, we are going to display. So it is simply an assignment of addition operation. Okay, like a normal addition operation. So first, let's create variables for all the calculation that we are going to do. We have to create a variable. That value can change. So we are just allocating some memory location, okay, to hold all those values. Okay, now we are going to create another variables. We name it as item. And this is going to be the, if you go to this file, just inspect this. Do you see get elements by tag? Any tag called input? Yeah, this input, right? The tag. So we have the tag, input tag in our form, right? So far we have just used get element by ID. That is this ID, item 1, item 2. But in this practice, we are going to use the JavaScript function called get element by tag name to see, because we don't know which item will get selected by the user. We are going to keep track of all this input tag. That's what we are going to do. So we instead of using get element by ID to keep track of item 1, item 2, item 3, we are just keeping track of this input tag itself. Okay. So that is the code. How to keep track of that. Again, as the get element by ID function, get element by tag name function is also a function of document object. So how can you access a function of object? Object name dot function name. What is the function name? Get element by tag name. Do you see this? Yeah, this is the function which is written by someone. We are just going to use it in our function. So the purpose of this, the action, what this particular function will do, it will just pick whatever is there in the website. It can pick, but we have to give the name. What is the tag name here? Input. Very good. So just add that. You can add any tag. Here, the tag that we are focusing is input tag. Okay, now we got that. Now, do you remember the for loop step that we discussed this Monday? It will just go through the looping and perform the operation, right? So we are going to apply the for loop. Recall the for loop that we discussed in chapter 3. So if you recall, for is the keyword, and this should have 3 components. The first component is going to be the variable initiation. Okay, mostly all the loops will have the temporary variable named I. That is like a thumb rule in any language. To go through the loop, we will just start it with like have the temporary variable named I. The I can go through the loop iteration, 1000 iteration or 100 iteration. What is the iteration? Going through the loop. That is called iteration. Okay. So now, how many times we want to check this? How many variables are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we don't have more than 5 elements. So what we have to check here is, since it starts from 0, do we need to give equal to or less than 5? Since it is 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 elements, right? So just, if you start it with 1, then you have to give less than or equal to 5. But since it starts with 0, let's give it less than 5. And the third component, it is incrementation for the loop condition. So if you don't remember it, please recall the looping for loop content that we discussed. Okay. Now what we are going to do, we are going to check whether that particular item is selected or not. How can we do that? Go to the page. And do you see the items checked or not? Item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5. Right? So what we can do, we can simply say items or item. Just items. Okay, let's create a temporary variable. So each item, whether it is getting, this items is nothing but the variable, this variable, okay, whether the particular element got selected or not. So if it is getting selected, then by default, it will be unchecked. If we select it, then it will become checked. So we are going to see whether it is checked or not. So to check it, we can simply say checked. Checked is the attribute. It is also built-in attribute that will be there with the checkbox. That is the input tag that we are using here. Checked. Like a built-in function, there are built-in properties. So item total. Okay. You know the item total, right? The variable. Give me a minute. It's an important call from chat. Sorry about that. Okay, so total variable. So whenever it is getting checked, we are going to get the value of that input. So how can we get the value? If you go there, do you see here? Is for the first item, the value is $8. For the second item, the value is $10. Do you see? That is what we are going to attribute. Even though it is that, we have to add, they have added it with the tag. So we can use this value attribute to get the value. How can we do that? Again, you have to use dot. To access any value in object-oriented programming, you have to use dot. So if you say dot, if it is first item, then item 1 dot value, item 2 dot value, item 3 dot value. Well, how many? If you have selected first three items, then the check will be true for the first item. So 8 will be added. Check will be true for the second item. 10 will be added. It will be true for the third item. So 8 will be added. Got it? So that is what we are doing. So next, what if someone is clicking, like they want 2 orders of this. They want 2 orders. Second time, if you're doing submitting to do that, do we need to give 1? No, the true orders not possible. But just for calculation purpose, let's add that multiplication 1. Okay, just only 1 time. Okay, so this is how we are just keeping track of whether that particular item is checked or not. Next thing, where we want to display this, where we want to display it. Again, check it, where we are displaying it. Are we displaying it here, right? So let me check this place. Get element by ID total. Okay. Do we have anything called total in your ID? Yeah, here, do you see an ID called total? We have already created. So we are going to use this because this is where you can click it and see where it is. The location is there. That's where we are going to print, right? So get element. Can we use get element by ID or get element by tag name? Here, get element by ID because it is ID. So if you recall, we learned a function called inner HTML. Inner HTML is a function which will help us to display the content in the web page directly. Directly we can display any content. So we are going to use that inner HTML here. Document dot get element by ID. And what is the ID name? Total. And what function we are going to use here? Inner HTML. So the purpose of the inner HTML will be just display whatever you have assigned, that will be displayed directly in the web page. What we want to display, if you recall, we want to display something like this. What is that? Yeah. Your order total is $18. We want to display something like this. So let's add that content. We are going to do it by using the string concatenation of JavaScript. Any string concatenation is the general programming concept. So this is string. You know what is string, right? String is a group of characters. This is string. So either you can use the single quotation or double quotation for string. And we are concatenating. That means we are adding the string with integer. What is the integer? This item total is the number. Okay. What we want to display here is what is there in this item total. So this item total will hold on all these values. Whenever we add new item, that item will get added here and it will hold that result total. So we want to display it here. So this plus will act like a string concatenation and combine the string with this integer. And right now it is just a whole number, but we want to display. If you recall, it is adding that .000. Okay. So we are just, but in the value, we don't have that. We just have this full number. So we are just going to add that .00 since the value does not have it. So that will be like a string. We are just adding it like a string, not as an integer, because it is not going to change. Okay, so we are getting the item total and displaying it by using inner HTML function through the head get element by ID type. Okay, so we just have the function. Now we have to create a event listener, right? So when you click this, now we have this component and this component. But when you click submit, then it should pick that information and put it together. So we have to do something for this content, submitting content. Okay. So how can we do that? Let's create a variable called submit button. When we submit that button, we are calling that function. If you recall in the second chapter, we have seen how to use function in dynamic web page. 3 ways. Do you remember the 3 ways? The third way is by using add event listener method. Do you remember add event listener? So we are going to do it by that. So what is there here in submit button? Shall we look at this and what is there that we can pick? Is there any way that we can it has an ID. Shall we use this ID? Yes button, right? So we can use this ID by using document get element by ID. We can pick that. So document dot get element by ID. What is the ID name? Yes button. Okay. Now we are going to add that add event listener. If someone is submitting that submit button, then only we are going to call this function. Because we have done it in our previous practice as well. Submit button is the variable. We have added the variable. You can see that that variable displays here once we add it. And now we are going to call the function add event listener. Add event listener. Add event listener. And what we are going to listen? Submit button dot add event listener. Do you remember the 3 parameters? What is the first parameter? Recall. Click. Very good. So click. Yeah, very good. So the second parameter is going to be the function name. What is the function name? What function we are going to call when someone click that? Call total. Very good. We are going to call this function when someone click that button. And then by default, it will be false. And when someone click, it will become true. Okay. So that is false. That is the third parameter. That's it. And then see here we are doing the if condition. If it is checked, then add it, or else we are not adding it. Here we are going to use if else condition. If someone click the button, then we are going to call the calculation total, or else we are just going to leave it, right? So else if with the same condition. So here it is a condition. What is the condition? If the add event listener is not activated, then submit button that attach event. There is a new function that you're learning here. Attach event. Attach event. So that event we are just it is not activated. It will be like that. So on click, when this is getting clicked, then it will get activated again. On click and just give the call. It should work even without this, but just we are practicing else if. Since you learned the branching conditions, different branching conditions in your chapter 3, what are the different branching conditions? If, else if, switch. So just we are practicing it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that is not add event listener. It is attach event. Attach event, yes. Thank you. So like add event listener, it is not a listener thing, but we are attaching this event. What is the event? The event is clicking the submit button. But even that else, without else if, it should work. You're just practicing it. So we have a function here and we have a function calling here. Where is the function call? Here. Okay, when it will get called, the function will get called when someone click the submit button, which we have given by this ID. So let's save this, and then so if you have given the uppercase, just change it to lowercase. Mistakenly, I have typed it uppercase. So once I change that, then when I click submit, it just gives the total value. Okay. So let me show the code once again. So the next practice is going to be adding that content, right? So if you recall, so this is the next practice. This content is going to get added, but through the JavaScript. We're going to do it through the JavaScript. Okay, like this. Like this. Okay. So let's open the code first. Go to hands-on project 3.3. Open the index page, in Visual Studio Code. And as usual, we are going to go to create the script tag here. After the article ID, create a script tag. And you can see what we want to display. We want to display these things. So literally, we are going to assign variables for holding this. So if you recall, there is a way that we can we can store all these things with single variable. What is that way? We can array. Very good. So we can store multiple elements in single variable. That concept is called array. Do you remember? That is the first concept, right? So array, we are going to use array to do that. So we are going to create an array. What is the syntax to create array? Var keyword as well, because it is also a variable, array variable. Just give some array name. Those are places. So let's just follow the instruction and say that the array name is going to be places. And what are the places? These are the places. So I'm just going to copy the place name and you have to type it. You have to type it. So in array, we have to separate the elements by using the comma. This is how we will save array. And that should not be. Okay. So, but is it right? No, it is string, right? Integer only you can save like this. Since it is string, what you have to do? What is the way to represent string? Double quotation or single quotation? So you have to specify, else it will be taken as variable. It will be taken as variable if you're not giving. So these are string elements of array. So just add string. Type it. You can either use single quotation or double quotation. So this is array declaration. So it is an array. Okay. So we are going to handle it with array. Now, what we are going to do, we are going, so let's go and check the page first. We have to explore the page first. So what is this item? So this is assigned with item 1. That acts like a list. Sequential processing with list. ID 1, item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, like that. So everything is list. So we are going to process it through the list. And we want to display it. So to display it, we are going to create a function. The function name is process places. That's the function name. And we are going to, if you recall, I told you array can be processed with the looping. Okay. So there are 5 arrays here. We're going to process all the element by using the loop. So normally, as I told you, I is the looping iteration. Normally, this is the rule which is not written. It's like a thumb rule that in every language we will use I as a iteration temporary variable. So can you tell me how many? This starts with 0. What is the operator? Until less than 5. Very good. Because it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have to process one by one, right? So yeah, I plus plus. That is the condition. Very good. Okay, now we are going to process it. We are going to get it and put it together. So if you go to this, we are creating a variable, a temporary variable called list item. We are going to create a temporary variable here. And we are naming that variable as list item. Since it is two word, we are using camel case saying list uppercase item, but it is not a rule. You can just give any name, but just remember that name. Okay, now we have to pull this. We have to put it here in item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, right? So that is how we have to put it together. So here we are going to add item as a string. This I is going to be okay, right? So here I is 0, but our I here starts from 1. What can we do? Item 1, item 2, item 3. What can we do? I plus 1. Okay? 0 plus 1. Okay. So now do you agree? So when it processes the first loop, it will become 0 plus 1, item 1. In the second iteration, it will be item 2. In the third iteration, it will be item 3. Agree? Now it is automated. We have automated our code. Now, what we are going to get those elements, right? Inner HTML. Okay. No, I don't want to say that. Can you tell me? We want to assign, we want to pick the elements from the array and put it here, display it in this page. What particular function will help us to do that? Inner HTML, very good. Inner HTML. So we are going to use that inner HTML and we are going to use this get element by ID to display it. That's awesome. So we are going to use document dot get element by ID. Now you're going to tell me the answer. What is the variable name? What should come here? What we are keeping the ID here? Where we are keeping the ID? The list item. Agree? Yeah. So the list item is going to be list item. It is going to have this in each iteration. The first iteration, it will be item 1. The second iteration, it will be item 2. Like that, it is going to. What is the item 1, item 2? These elements. So this is where we are going to keep the element. For that, the function that will help us to do that job is inner.html. Now you're going to tell me what we are going to keep. For example, let's say the first iteration. What we have to display in the first iteration? For go, right? Where is for go? How can we access? How will you access the array element? Recall the second concept that how to access array element. What is the array name here? Places, right? How will you access the first element? Indexing. Square bracket. Array indexing is square bracket. So the first index will be 0 because array indexing starts from 0. So in the first iteration, when I is 0, this will become item 1. That means it will be displayed in item 1, but what element will be picked? We are doing two things with that I. Okay, we are using that I to perform two things. I here 0, and then that will be displayed in item 1. I1 will be Las Vegas, that will be displayed in item 2. So we are doing multiple tasks with this using this single variable. You got it? So in this particular practice, we have applied almost all the things that we learned in chapter 3. Array, for looping, and then here next we are going to apply the if-else condition as well. Conditioning, branching. So the branching is similar to the branching that we have done in our previous practice, that is add event listener. Here, we are going to use the window event listener. Do we have any button here? No, right? If there is a button, then you can say document dot, but here there is no submit button to process it. Previously, there was submit button, then what did you give? That document dot submit button something, right? Here it is just when you click that refresh button, right? So this whole browser, the page will be saved. To process that, there is an object called window, the big object that will handle everything. Like you, so far you have just, you're familiar with document object. This object is called window object for the whole browser. Window dot add event listener. Okay, so just add window dot add event listener. You know what? So that submit button processing event is click. What do you think? Guess what will be the event here in window? That is click. Loading the page. Yeah, loading the page. Sorry. Loading the page, right? So here it is not click, it is load. Agree? Load. So it's not click, it is load. So when it is getting loaded, what should be called? Process place. This function should be called. Always, that is the second parameter. Function calling, that is the second parameter. I normally will do copy and paste to avoid typo errors. False. Okay, so that is if. Now we are going to do else if, like what we did with the previous one, right? The same thing. Do you remember the attach event thing, function? The same thing here. Window dot attach event. Can you fill the code? Window dot attach event. Any guess? Onload, very good. Decapitalized. In attach event. Yeah, thank you. Onload the. Oh yeah. I don't know how that happened. Thank you. Process places. So that function should be called. Okay. So this is our function definition. This is our array definition, and we are processing the array by using the array loop, and we did some gimmicks by using the I to process both the front page and the array. And then here we are just calling the function by using add event listener that we already know. Save this. Semicolon. Yeah, but yeah, even without that, it should work. But yeah, let's be, and there should be only one parenthesis, closing parenthesis. This is for this, and this is for this, and this one is for. Did I miss any closing parentheses? Yes, here I missed one parenthesis. There should be two parentheses here. Yes. If statement has this if, else if.
I mean, if it's not within the function of process place, right?
Right. Doing, am I working on 3.3? Okay. Let me save it and run it, and then we'll come back. So let me make it clear. We have the function calling separately here with the for loop, and then we have the separate event. Track that event. So the event is here loading. So how you are getting it? How did you do that? When you refresh the page, you got it right. So when the page is getting loaded, That's why it is load event. When the page is getting loaded, you're getting it. That's why you're giving load event. Okay. So the third practice, go to the 3-4. Go to 3-4 and open it in the Visual Studio Code. Okay. So if you recall what we are going to do with that, we are going to create a form, and whatever we are entering in this form element, once we submit, then it should get added. Can you tell me what function we are going to add to this inner HTML? How we are going, what event? Click. Okay, so these are the two main concepts that we are going to. Also, we are going to use that list concept, array concept, because it is sequential element. So we are going to combine all the concepts that you learn in this practice. So go to the end of the file and create a script tag. Script tag. Okay, continue. Script tag, and then what we are counter variable. What is the counter variable? Because we are going to keep track of the sequence. Okay, yeah, very good. We can see 1 or 0. So far we are just using 0. Why do we use 1? Do you see what we are doing? We are okay. Maybe you go to this element and check the ID. We need to have the ID. Click the UL. Where we are going to, whatever item that you are entering here, once you submit, it is going to get assigned one by one to item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. Like that, we are going to process it. Okay. So same thing that we did in our previous, but this is kind of a little bit more interactive. So we are just going to keep the list item empty because we don't know what will be entered by the user. So we are just creating a variable. What is the item that will be entered by the user? So the same function that we are going to use, process input. Previously, we created a variable and we just picked the element from that array variable. Now we are not going to create a variable. We are just process places like that. It is process input, input of the user. Input of the user. Okay. So when we can we give more than 5 here? No, only 5 places are here. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we cannot give more than 5. So that's what we are going to give. When the I value is less than or equal to 5. Since we initiated the I to 1, we are giving less than or equal to 5. If as long as the I value is less than or equal to 5, we are okay to add the entered items to list item. So we are going to add the ID. If you recall, the same thing. Item. Do we need to give I plus 1 or I? Because I value is 1. That starts with 1. Do you think that we need to give I, right? Simply I. Item 1, item 2, item 3. Okay. Now we are going to get that document, get element by ID or tag. ID. What is the ID name? Where it will be saved? List item. This is where it will be saved, right? This variable. When it processes through each loop, it will be saved here. List item. To where we are going to display the entered element here. So what function we have to use? Inner HTML. Very good. So that is going to be what? Get element ID by 2. Okay. So we have whatever is entered here, we are going to get it from here. So inspect it again. What is the ID here? Toolbox. So whatever is entered here, we are going to get it and put it there. Simply getting it from the box and putting it there. So can you tell me the function that we have to use here? Get element by ID. Very good. So document, that is the part of document object dot get element by ID. What is the ID name? Toolbox. Very good. So, sorry, toolbox. Okay. So I told you there are built-in functions, there are built-in attributes. See, this is built-in attribute. So whatever is entered, that will be saved in default value. So for any item, form element, the value, the default attribute is value. Do you remember the value in previous one? So we are going to use the value attribute, which is built-in. Whatever is entered, that will be by temporarily saved in the attribute called value. So we are just getting the temporary value. Hey. Then once we get that, once we enter it here, once you enter it, what happens to this? It's clearing that box. So we have to give the code for that. Once you enter, so here I'm just giving something. Hello. It's clearing that box, right? We have to write the code for that. It should clear. Once the value is entered and displayed there by using inner.html, we have to clear that code. That document dot, can you fill that? Get element by ID. What is the ID? Toolbox. How can you clear that code? Very good. That's awesome. Value should be empty. That's it. Value should be empty. The value of that should become empty. That's what we are giving here. Okay, clearing the text box. Maybe I will just add some comment for you. Clearing the text box because this is little bit. You need some understanding. You don't need to add the command, but if you want to recall the code, you can add it. Now I'm going to give one more check. Do you remember the triple equal sign? Triple equal sign means it's going to check both the data type and the number, whether it is string or you can just use 5 as a string by giving double quotation or an integer. So whatever it is, we're going to process it. Okay. So document dot give me a minute. It should say. See, after giving 5 suggestions, it should say thank you for giving suggestions. So we have to find where we have to display this element. Where? There is ID called results. Do you see? Results or result expression? Yeah, here, the paragraph. This is the thing, okay? So the result expression paragraph, we want to display after 5 input, we have to say thank you for your suggestion. For that, we can use this ID. What is the ID? Result expression 1. Copy that ID. We're going to use that. Can you fill the code? Document dot get the element by ID. And what is the ID name that we have just copied? Results expression 1. And we want to display something there. Literally, we're going to write something there. What function we can use? To write something in the viewport. Inner.html. .inner.html to write something. Okay, that is different. This one is writing something literally in the viewport. What we are going to write? What we are writing? Thanks for your suggestions, right? So we are literally going to assign this to this. Thanks for your suggestions. When that happens? Only when the I value is 5. Does it happen when I is 4? No. Only when all suggestions are given. That's why we are giving. When I equal to 5, then we are giving thanks for your suggestions. And it starts from 1, but where did we give the loop? We didn't use the loop. But it will be that, but we have to give a condition to iterate through the loop, right? I starts from 1. So it can just process the first element. To process the next element, either we have to use looping or we have to give some condition to move the I to next 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do it by using looping for loop, or you can do it like this. Did we use the function? We just created a function. We didn't use the function, right? So we have to use the function when this will get activated. When you click this submit button, then it will get activated. So you have to add that component. Adding event listener. So let's create a variable for handling that. You're going to tell me that remaining code. When someone click this, that happens, that getting added, right? So what we are going to do? Document.get element ID button, right? Agree? Yeah. Oh yeah. Document lowercase. Oh, lowercase. Get element by ID. What is the ID name? Button. So that we are creating a variable. Now we are using that variable. That variable is going to get associated with the event. What you can do with the button, just click. Okay. So the event listener is going to be the click. So first let's add the add event listener with the button variable. And that is going to have 3 functions. So first thing button dot add event listener. But one, click, good. Second parameter, processing. Whatever term I'm using, remember those terms. That's why I'm reiterating it. Okay, reiterating it because that will get registered in your mind. Iteration, parameter, remember those stuff. You may get those questions in your exams. You should be familiar with all these terms. Do you remember the else if part? Normally we will do else if. Can you tell me? Very good. The same thing. First parameter is going to be event on click. Very good. Second parameter, process input. Good. So the second part, now in this today's practice, you are more familiar with how you can define a function and call the function by using add event listener. Are you? Right? With all 3 practices, you have practiced the same concept. So by this time, you should be very clear on this. Okay, so now let's see whether it works without any error. It works. Okay. I cannot just give some values. Screenshot of this. All 5 elements should work. So when you take the screenshot for this third one, I want the screenshot of thanks for your suggestions. Okay. And then for the previous one, I want the screenshot of just adding the first. And for the first one, you need to submit the screenshot of your order total. So how many screenshots? 3 screenshots. Okay. And if you want the code, I will make it available for you.